Shalom. Before I begin this video, all praise, honor, and glory goes into Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, GMS, rule well and teach well, taught us his truth. Alright, as well as a sincere salutations to the elder bishops, along with you brothers who are laboring all throughout the four winds of the earth. Alright, bringing out the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash, in sincerity and in faith. To you, I say, Shalom. And the title of this lesson is going into the USD1 cryptocurrency, and all these different things lead to the MOTB, which is the the RFID micro C-HIP. All these different cryptocurrencies and things like that, that's what it's all leading to. All roads lead to the MOTB. So I'm just gonna play this little, it's really short clip. It's the dollar declining.
A bit hard to really pinpoint this year, actually for the last 6 months or so. The general consensus is that the dollar declines through the year. We are on that bandwagon as well, but we would like to urge some caution. There is a lot of expectation that the dollar is going to be declining, which is fair, but then it's getting too overdone. We think positioning on the dollar is quite short. A lot has happened. There is the expectation decline that a lot of the dollar weakness is built on. We think the Fed will definitely be cutting once, maybe twice, but more in the second half of the year. Our economics team has now pushed back their rate cut expectations from March and June to June and September, so slightly later in the year. The focus from the board seems to be more on inflation. Data has been strong, we have to acknowledge that. But if inflation gives them the opportunity to cut rates, we think that the board would be taking that and taking the opportunity to be delivering more rate cuts, but more in the second half of the year. Where that gives us opportunity, especially for Asia, is one, the decline in the dollar, but more particularly for Asia, is the appreciation that we've seen in the CNH, the strength of the yen despite the substantial victory from the LDP. All of that should enable some of, particularly the current account positive AI-driven economies to.
And as you can see, everybody else doing good. The dollar doing bad, man. See if I can get a screenshot.
From the LDP, all of that should enable some of, particularly the current account positive AI-driven economies to have a stronger FX. We like the Taiwan dollar to be appreciating in this particular context.
All right, so basically the dollar weakness, but perhaps pushed further on down the road. For the time being, though, at least in the first half, is it better perhaps to ascertain that the dollar is not going to strengthen or weaken, but perhaps trade sideways for the time being? And how how tight a trading band are we expecting the dollar index perhaps to sort of hover around while we wait for that possible weakness in the end of the year?
So just to clarify, we expect that the dollar will decline. It's not going to be a straight line depreciation.
Yes.
Maybe from now through to the end of the year, another 2-3%. Absolutely not a linear depreciation. There will be these opportunities to trade the dollar. There will be, like we saw overnight, strengthening in the dollar based on maybe stronger data in the US, based on some reallocation, based on repositioning. All of these should drive the dollar slightly higher in interims, but that is an opportunity to get more shorter the dollar rather than sit on a short dollar position and expect that that's going to be a straight line depreciation day on day through to the end of the year.
So is it more of if you are shorting the dollar, perhaps betting on dollar weakness, perhaps wait, be careful about when you pull the trigger, perhaps not pull the trigger right away?
The way I'd structure that is to look at crosses. So look at FX that would be benefiting. The likes of CNH stands out, the likes of some of the high yielders in LATAM stand out, and look at the potential losers and play that cross rather than expecting that the dollar is going to be the one that is.
So like he said, he just, projecting that the dollar is only going to do worse. All right, so they're speaking on a upgraded American currency. All right, I'm gonna read some of this article. It says, speaking on the company's USD1 stablecoin, it says, since the dollar was created in 1792, U.S. presidents and their families have generally been content with the status quo of effectively giving the national government a monopoly on issuing currency and outlawing the use of foreign currency. Consider the launch of the dollar, the country's initial coin offering, back when the U.S. government was hustling to surpass the dominance of the Spanish pieces of eight then in common circulation throughout the country. When presidents have said anything about the dollar itself, it is generally to reiterate the government's strong dollar policy. So they're constantly pushing the dollar, right? The whole world deals with the U.S. dollar. That continued more or less uninterrupted through 46 presidencies, until last March, when a company partly owned by DT and his family began to market an alternative to the dollar, a cryptocurrency dubbed USD1. It says the value of USD1, which is marketed as a stable-coin, would track the dollar, much as the dollar when it was created in 1792 was initially pegged to be to the value of the then dominant Spanish silver dollar. Because all these different currencies were, propped up, such as the Spanish silver dollar. And then once America was created, they start moving towards, their currency. And now the whole world basically operates based off, the American petrodollar. It says the company World Liberty Financial, which of course, it's gotta include the world, because before this C-HIP really dropped, and before this, C-HIP really take off, you best believe you're going to have certain Edomites that are going to have, their little foot in the door, these back deals, things of that nature. It says, World Liberty Financial touts USD1 as an improvement on official U.S. currency. The firm's website brands its stablecoin as the dollar upgraded. So, and all these different technologies are going to lead to the MOTB. It says the coin is still the U.S. dollar before a new era, and their new era is digital. It says on Wednesday, the firm held the World Liberty Forum at Mar-a-Lago, the club owned by the president and operated as his winter WH. The event coming just before the first anniversary of the release of the USD1 brought together financiers, technologists, television personalities, and the president of the World Soccer Organization, FIFA, and artist Nicki Minaj. So it's just a bunch of confusion. And, ultimately, finance and technology, they are, merging more and more, as the days go by, to eventually, it's going to be a C-HIP, they're going to present a CHIP on a worldwide scale, which of course we got to get, the book of Revelation chapter 13. Got to get that, because we know that's what it's going to eventually lead to. The CHIP. Now they speaking on the different coins and the this and that, but ultimately we know that all those are going to be consolidated, all right, into one currency, all right, which is going to be in that CHIP. Now this could be what they call it, or they could call it something else. But whatever they call it, whatever this currency is going to need a physical CHIP. There's going to be, you got software, which would be that cryptocurrency, and then you got the hardware. You got the physical, actual CHIP. Because they got this USD1. They could have this USD1, in your phone or whatever the case is. And then that just be what it is. It could have nothing. It could have nothing to do with the CHIP, or it could have everything to do with the CHIP. That could be the currency that, okay, they decide this is what the CHIP is going to run off of. Is this USD1? We'll just have to wait for it. Yet we know for a 100% fact that the MOTB is the RFID micro CHIP. We know that for a fact. We don't doubt that at all. We push that. Gray Millstone, starting off with the Elder Apostles of Gray Millstone on down. The Elder Apostles of Gray Millstone push the prophecy of the chip. That's one of the trademarks, of the doctrine of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Which we defend that same gospel. The same gospel that the elder apostles, have been teaching for decades upon decades. All right. Going down, I'm not going to read all of it. It says that the old US dollar needs to be modernized, that the private sector is the place to drive that innovation, and that stablecoins will help taxpayers by creating structural demand for US government debt, which is all just debt, right? It says the World Liberty backers argue the new cryptocurrency they are building is not a threat to the dollar at all, but will help ensure the dollar remains dominant in global crypto finance, because USD1's value is pegged to it. It says, but one big question is why? If the dollar needs modernizing, should that be done by the private sector? And why should the venture be in the private hands of the president and his family, and not in the hands of the U.S. Treasury? It says this is actually going to preserve dollar hegemony. There's crypto companies that are the top 5 buyers in the world. That's going to actually stabilize the U.S. dollar and do all the things that we need to. Continue to put their foot on the Israelites' necks. It says he argued the federal government and the big Wall Street banking system simply aren't nimble or innovative enough to drive the needed changes. Yeah, man. So once again, just as always, they blowing smoke. That's just an old Southern saying. You blowing smoke up, you blowing smoke up my ears, in my ears. We're going to lead the way as Americans, right? Because they know and understand that America leads the way when it comes to everything. You're going to leave that to who? JP Morgan to do? You're going to leave that to the federal government to do? Which they always tout themselves as, small government and things like that. But we know that they're hand in hand with the government. They are the government. They dad is the president. So they talk about all this small government shit. No, they want full control. Shit. This is more control. Yeah, ultimately, they're not running nothing. It's the international bankers. And ultimately, Yahbashim Shah is running the show, man. Because these international bankers, they only got a short amount of time. They're about to be through. It says, Wall Street is overly complacent and therefore ripe for technological disruption. Do you think the big banks will actually do this? And the reason I say this is it's been 50 years where bankers are working 6 hours a day. They have a 2-hour lunch break. They're typically out of the office at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just scanning through it. Of course, it can be paused. It says DJT Jr. said that he concluded the traditional banking system is a Ponzi scheme, which they constantly, they got their money in the banking system. They just, once again, they just talking shit. When they had every big bank in the world for doing nothing wrong debanked, Trump accounts and those of other conservatives just based on the fact that they all wore a hat that said "Make America Great Again." So they got a bone to pick. When in reality, this is just a theater. And I am, once again, slacking. I'm not really reading through this. Just going back down to what was read earlier. And that's why a president's family, for the first time since slacking. I keep saying that. 1972. 1792 is creating an upgraded American currency. Call it truth dollar, which they could call it truth dollar, USD1, whatever the case is. All these different digital currencies are all leading to the MOTB. Right? So let's go ahead and get that precept. So no matter what they call it, truth dollar, USD1, whatever the case is, all these different currencies are eventually going to lead to one digital currency, which is going to be pushed through that C-HIP, that MOTB, which is the C-HIP. All right, Revelation 13, and I'm gonna start at 15. Actually, let's start at the top. Start at the top. Point is in 16. Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And see Esau, Edom, and his power structure, his family, right? His families. Okay, they're all in cahoots. They all, are dealing with each other. Hand in hand. It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So Esau, Edom, once again, this is a system set up by Esau, Edom. Right? This market, this MOTB, right, is going to be coming out of a beast system. Right? You have NATO, the EU, that's a modern day Rome. Right? And that those Edomite families have set that up. It says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. Right? So at first, okay, during the time of the Roman Empire, it seemed like at first, okay, that it was destroyed. Right? Yet it was revitalized. All right? And now we at the point where this system is revitalized. We in Rome 2.0. All right? It's Rome 2.0, NATO and the EU. It says his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Yeah, worshiping Esau, Edom. Self-proclaimed white man setting up this system, right? And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? Right? Because that's the power, that's the hammer of the earth. Right? NATO and the EU, headed by Babylon the Great, aka America. You know? So it says, Revelation 13 and 5, it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And it's all sorts of confusion coming from this damn devil. And some of those great things that he speaks on is a new financial system. Something new. Something, you know, far beyond anything you see. And once they bring out that C-hip, it's all downhill from it, which is already downhill, but it's super downhill once that C-hip is presented. And so it says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Oh, Salakia. I didn't read that second part. Revelation 13 and 5, it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So this nigga has an end. This ain't gonna be a forever rulership. It says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And look at what you've, starting off with the elder apostles of Great Millstone on down, look at what you've done. All they do is speak completely opposite of the scriptures, against the men of the Lord, against the doctrine, right? To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. The Israelites, more specifically the elect, right? And them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Yeah, so you're gonna delete some of us. It's gonna be, yet the victory is gonna, come through Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. That's where the victory is gonna come in at. Cause yeah, you can do certain things to us. Yeah, you can throw us in jail, kill some of us, do what you're gonna do. Yet ultimately, the Lord is going to prevail. It says, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, which is Yahweh Shai. So everyone who is not of the elect, they're going to be worshiping this damn beast. That's why we continue every day. Every day we continue to resist this damn devil through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Because, the average Babylonian wants to look at us like we, like we done just lost our damn mind. When look at this system. It's confusing, base-ass system. It's all confusion. And it's pushed forward hatred. See, Esau Edom has a hatred of the Israelites. That's how this place is continuing to move forward. Esau Edom's hatred for the Israelites. The scriptures talk about him, hitting us with a continual stroke. He constantly beating us down. All right, but we know that this is going to end with him going into captivity, along with you other nations too. Y'all's ass is going into captivity too. Y'all ain't getting away with shit. Because everybody whose name ain't in the Lamb's book of life is going to be destroyed. That's why, Lord's will, we be of the elect. We be of the elect of the nation of Israel, Lord's will. Revelation 13:9, it says, if any man have an ear, let him hear, which only the elect can hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So Esau Edom, a.k.a. the self-proclaimed white man, all right, he put us in captivity. So by default, now his ass got to go into captivity. That only makes sense, along with the other nations, because y'all assisted him. All right, this devil didn't do this by himself, or he didn't do this by himself. He had the help of the other nations, and he had the help of 2/3 of Israel. That's the messed up part. He got the help of the 2/3 of Israel. They on his side. They're not on the side of the elect. They on Esau's side. All right, that's why they're gonna get punished with an Edomite punishment. The missiles. That's something that was specifically just supposed to go, to Esau and the other nations. Yet 2/3 of Israel is against, the Lord on this side, and they're going to get dealt with. And then they're going to come back through the loins of the elect. So, Barakatah Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, we're of the elect. We don't have to perish on, this side by way of intercontinental ballistic missiles, because everyone who gets hit with those missiles, that means that you are not of the elect. If you get hit by thermonuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles, then the Lord was not with you in that time. He left you there to get melted, just like, the scriptures speak about that, being left and melted. Revelation 13:10 once again. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So that's what we waiting on. That's what we waiting on. We're waiting for the Lord to come back. All right, and then simultaneously with that, this place being destroyed, us being put in those new bodies, Lord's will, we be of the elect of the nation of Israel. And then being able to put you damn devils into captivity along with the heathen. Because this right here, this not only includes Esau, so-called white man, also you other nations. All right, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So you gotta go. what we look like putting Esau in captivity, and not the other nations as well. Now, Esau's captivity is going to be, it's going to be way worse. And we say that through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. We know that it's going to be way worse. Way worse. The captivity that's going to you damn devils, it's going to have the other nations in fear. Like, they're going to be in slavery, as well. But what's going to happen to the Edomites, man, is going to really put fear into the other nations, man. They're going to say, damn, we glad that we not Edomites. All right, that's how they're going to be thinking. Revelation 13 and 11, it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, going into that 2-party system, which is basically, it's all the same shit. Republicans, Democrats, plebeians, patrician. It's 2 sides to the same coin, like brothers constantly mention. Verse 12, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Right, going back into Rome. That's why everything you see in this society is based off of Rome. It's based off of that Greco-Roman infrastructure, man. Everything about this place. That's why in school, we used to learn about Greece, Rome, Roman numerals, which I'm not sure, if they, if that's something that they still do, Roman numerals. Exactly, because they're changing up the curriculum. Yet the worship, the worship of Rome, the worship of the Roman system, even if it's not taught as much in school, which they don't teach shit in school no more. But in general, that you are, if you live in Babylon the Great, and you're not in the truth, you are worshiping the beast. You worshiping the beast system currently, and it's gonna be 100% solidified with that C-hip. Once people take that C-hip, that's full. You are fully owned. You are full ownership. Esau Edom fully own you. You basically, you're dropping, if you're an Israelite, you're dropping everything, and you're taking on Esau Edom as your God. By taking that C-hip, that's you worshiping the beast. All right. Now, of course, in this system right now, we gotta, pay taxes and have a license and all these other things. Hey, that's not worshiping the beast. Worshiping the beast is when you take that C-hip and you say, okay, this is what I want to do. You and hey, that's beyond the danger zone, deletion zone, right? Because those that take the C-hip, all of them will be deleted. There's not one person that's going to take that C-hip that's going to be saved, man. And in order for you to be saved, you got to be of the elect of the nation of Israel. Right, going back, Revelation 13 and 13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he has all sorts of technologies that allow him to do that. It says, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, right? So everybody outside of the elect is being deceived. It says, by the means of those miracles, all right, and all these different technological miracles, all these different weapons he got, his media, all right, everything. Esau Edom himself, he's a weapon. Everything he does is weaponized, right? It says, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound, Just not letting me go down. Slovakia. Which had the wound. Which had the wound by a sword and did live. So we're in a revitalized system. Right, you had the Eastern Empire and the Western Empire. Right? And that Eastern Empire, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that continued, which was basically Jake. Basically Jake. Because, Jake, when it come down to it, when it come to all these big societies, throughout all of our captivity, all of our different captivities, the Israelites is really what made everything popping. Like, without the Israelites, Rome, wouldn't have gotten to its height. All right? Everything was built up by Jake and ran by Esau, Edom, and the other nations, right? Revelation 13 and 15. And he had power to give life into the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right? And taking part in that system. Taking part, because once you take that seat, you fully in the system. You are fully owned. All right, so once again, we gonna deal, with certain things such as being beheaded. It is what it is. As long as we of the elect, that's all that matters, man. Some of us, that's just what we gonna have to go through. Is being beheaded, and of course, it sounds absolutely terrifying. It sounds absolutely terrifying, yet, we know that the Spirit is going to take over. The Holy Spirit is going to take over. And brothers constantly go into this, how, even if some of us are to be beheaded, it ain't going to affect us. All right? It's, boom, it's going to happen. And like brothers constantly speak on, it's going to be certain instances where you're going to have brothers that are actually going to have the guillotine drop, and nothing's going to happen. They're going to break, the Lord is going to give them that spiritual power. That's a beautiful thing. Hey, man, we're going to be witnesses to that. We're going to see that. We're going to see certain brothers, in, these different camps. We're going to see them power up. We're going to see them, they got the, boom, they about to, hit us with one of them old school hangings, where they would put the rope around your neck, and they just have a platform that just open up and drop. As soon as they do that, boom, rope just don't do shit. The rope break, your hands tied behind your back and everything, and you escape. All right? All through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahshua. We're going to be seeing and witnessing these things, man. Some of us are going to be, those men that actually, brothers is going to be, all tied up in one, and they're gonna actually just boom, break free, have that spiritual power, right? Some of us are gonna be deleted, beheaded. Some of us, some of us are gonna be cast into prisons. Yet, it's all about being the elect of the nation of Israel. That's what matters. Revelation 13 and 16, and he causeth all. He is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, starting off with the international banking elite, All right, and every time that pops up, you know, I always go into it how being in this truth is an investment. Like, you got these different sites, like you know, Robinhood, you know, GoDaddy.com. These different, you know, it goes into these different investments and things. See, being invested in this truth is the greatest investment. You know, because you can see Esau Edom. He invested in the C-Hip. That's what he invested in. Us, all right, starting off with the elder apostles of Great Millstone on down, we invested in Yahweh Shem Shai. And the Lord has never failed us. He's never going to fail us. All right, Lord's will, we be of the elect. The Lord is going to shine forth through us, man, and we'll be delivered. All right, and we won't have to partake in this, because everyone who partakes in this will be destroyed, right? What's being spoken on right now in the book of Revelation 13 and 16, right? Reading it again. Revelation 13 and 16, he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor. So, shit, they might get to see him. All right? Tebow and them. They pretty low level overall, you know? They might get pulled to the side by one of the Rothschild, you know, top Rothschild. All right, in order, you know, to show confidence, you're going to have to take the C-Hip. They're going to be like, all right. You know? They're going to take it. See, because them Rothschild, they going to tell you to take the C-Hip, and they ain't going to take the C-Hip. Just like with everything, they tell you, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to pay taxes. They don't pay no taxes, right? The system that they setting up is for the slave, and in reality, they going into slavery. All right, Revelation 13 and 16, he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. All right, so those who are quote unquote free, right? Which right now we in captivity. All right, and bond, those in prison and jail, you know. Also, being in the foster care system, you know, the juvenile delinquent system, they gonna be C-hipped as well. All right, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. All right, those who are, you know, also, you know, wards of the state. Things of that nature. All right, so everybody outside of the elect, the C-Hip is going to be in their future. It's going to be constantly, and we have to face that same hour of temptation. Yet, Lord's will, we be of the elect. We not going to take the C-Hip, right? It says, Revelation 13 and 17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Yes, so you're not going to be able to buy, sell. You're not going to be able to present yourself, you know, in court. You know, you're not going to be able to, you know, get put out any documents. You ain't going to have a ID card. You're going to need the C-Hip to present yourself, right? You know, different law enforcement are going to be, you know, riding around. Okay, let me see your hand. All right, you don't have a C-Hip. You don't have identification. You basically an outcast. All right, like if you don't have a ID, money, you know, different document, you basically an outcast. So that's all going to become digital through the C-Hip. Revelation 13 and 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 366. And like we've been taught, a score is 20. So 666. Esau Edom, he comes with a lot of numbers and symbolism. So we know this is how Esau Edom is coming. He's gonna come, bearing gifts. He's gonna come looking like, all right, he the innovator. He's the future. All right. And salvation can only come through him and his seed. That's how he gonna come. Okay, yeah, we know that this man, he come with a physical mark. He comes with with a number attached to him, attached to that C hip. 666. We know that this damn devil, he gonna crash the dollar. He coming with his C hip, right? Which ultimately is Yahweh Shem Yahshai's C hip that he's letting Esau use to, to gather up all the people. The scriptures speak about this damn devil. He gathering up, he heapeth unto him all these people, man. Right, and ultimately they're here in Babylon the Great to be judged. Alright, so I'm going to read this last precept. Ezekiel 22:19, therefore thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, because ye are all become dross, behold, therefore I will gather you in the midst of Jerusalem. Right, so at one point we were dull, right? As they gathered silver and brass and iron and lead and tin into the midst of the furnace to blow the fire upon it, to melt it. So will I gather you in mine anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there, right, in America, and melt you. So you got the gold, and then you got the nothing metals. The other nations, they basically like the super low level metals, right? Melted. And only the elect is going to go through that fire of adversity and make it through to the end. Lord's will we be of the elect, man. And we're going to shine, like that wedge of Ophir. Like it says in the scriptures, man, Lord's will we be of the elect. Lord's will we can make it through this fire of adversity. All right, so with that, Lord's will, you are edified. Call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors once again to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, from the elder apostle Tahar on down, Salakia. As well as the sincere salutations to the elder bishops out in Connecticut, along with your brothers, all you brothers, all throughout the four winds of the earth, laboring, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. May Yahweh Shem Yahushai watch over you brothers, pray for you brothers. May you brothers continue, to pray for the sincere elect, Lord's will. You brothers of the elect, Lord's will, I'm of the elect. Kwam Yasharallah and Abba Ball. Shalom.